Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with the practice questions for the day, we have an announcement. Byju's Exam Prep IAS, as you all know, is conducting Target Prelims 2023. As part of today's session, the topic would be how to prepare for economy in under 90 days. So please do join live on our YouTube channel at 8 p.m. so that you will understand how to crack UPSC economy questions, and you can also pose your questions as well, and Shamsa will also answer all your queries. So please do tune in live on our YouTube channel at 8 p.m. so that you can get your answers from Shamsa, and this will be very important from the economy point of view. Now let's look into the first question. Consider the following statements with respect to Lok Sabha Speaker. Whenever the House of the People is dissolved, the Speaker shall vacate his office immediately. The Speaker, if he decides to resign, shall submit his resignation to the Leader of the House. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is none. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the PIB makes a reference to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, whenever the House of the People is dissolved, the Speaker shall vacate his office immediately. This statement is wrong. Why? That is because let's assume for a moment that the House is dissolved right now, today. If it is dissolved, does it mean the Speaker will also have to vacate today? No. Why? Because until the first session of the next parliament is done, he need not have to resign. This means that he would also be part of the first session of the newly organized parliament. Where is it present? It is present in Article 94 of the Indian Constitution, which clearly points out that whenever the House of the People is dissolved, the Speaker shall not vacate his office until immediately before the first sitting of the House of the People after the dissolution, which is why the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, the Speaker, if he decides to resign, shall submit his resignation to the Leader of the House. This statement is once again wrong. This statement is once again wrong. That is because he gives his resignation letter not to the Leader of the House, but instead it is to the Deputy Speaker. Vacation and resignation of removal from the offices of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. A member holding office as Speaker or Deputy Speaker of the House of the People, which is nothing but the Lok Sabha, shall vacate his office if he ceases to be a member of the House of the People, may at any time by writing under his hand addressed, if such member is the Speaker, to the Deputy Speaker, and if such member is the Deputy Speaker, he shall write to the Speaker. So if the Speaker wants to resign, he will write it to the Deputy Speaker, and if the Deputy Speaker wants to resign, he also writes to the Speaker. This is very important from the preliminary examination point of view. At times, they may also give you a statement saying that at the time of resignation, the Speaker will write it to the President. No, it is not so. Remember, it is Speaker to the Deputy Speaker, Deputy Speaker to the Speaker. These are very important points from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following are correctly matched? We have events of Buddha's life and the symbolic significance of that particular event. Birth, lotus; renunciation, horse; nirvana, bodhi tree; first sermon, wheel. Which of them are correctly matched? The answer to this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the PIB makes a reference to Dharma Dhamma conference. Let us try and understand initially what this Dharma Dhamma conference is all about, and then we will look at symbols of great events of Buddha's life. When we look at the Dharma Dhamma conference, the President of India will visit Bhopal and she will inaugurate the 7th International Dharma Dhamma conference organized by India Foundation in collaboration with Sanchi University. What is the aim of this conference? Basically, this will undertake intra and intercultural study of varied Buddhist traditions, their textual sources, Vedic traditions, and revisit them so that it can be adopted for the new world order. That is what is this Dharma Dhamma conference. Now, if we look into the events, what are the 5 events? what we have is Buddha's birth, great departure, enlightenment, first sermon, as well as Mahaparinirvana. So if we look into the birth, yes, it is represented by the lotus. If we look into the great renunciation, which is also called as Mahabrinishkramana, it is represented by horse. This is where Buddha would be leaving his home, family, and kingdom in search of the truth. This is symbolized by a horse. Then what we have is Nirvana. This also happens to be the enlightenment, where Buddha attained enlightenment under the tree in Bodh Gaya. This is symbolized by the Bodhi tree. Finally, what we have is the first sermon, and this is represented by a wheel, and this is also called by a word Dhammachakra Parivartan. This was Buddha's first sermon in Deer Park close to Varanasi, and this is symbolized by the wheel. These are very important from the preliminary examination point of view. And finally, what we have is Mahaparinirvana, which is nothing but Buddha's death, and this is symbolized by a stupa. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to nano fertilizers, which of the following statements are correct? Nano encapsulated conventional fertilizers help in slow and sustained release of nutrients over an extended period of time. Nano fertilizers reduce the crop cycle period and increase crop yield. Which of the statements are correct? Both the statements are correct. Why have we taken this practice question? Because there was a reference of nano fertilizers in the PIB article. When we look into the differences between conventional fertilizers and nano fertilizers, what are the difference? One is to do with solubility and dispersion of mineral micronutrients. In nano fertilizers, it improves solubility and dispersion of insoluble nutrients in soil, reduce soil absorption, fixation, and increase the bioavailability. But when it comes to the conventional fertilizers, they are less bioavailability to plants due to large particle size and less solubility. So the first major difference is, as the very name denotes, these are nano fertilizers, which means they are small in size and can easily be absorbed, and at the same time they also reduce soil absorption. But because the conventional fertilizers are comparatively large in size, they have less solubility and they are not easily absorbable by the soil. Then we have the nutrient uptake efficiency. This might increase fertilizer efficiency and uptake ratio of the soil nutrients in crop production and save fertilizer resource. Bulk composite is not available for roots and decrease the efficiency when it comes to the conventional fertilizers. Then we have controlled release modes. Release rate and release pattern of nutrients for water soluble fertilizers might be precisely controlled through encapsulation in envelope forms. Excess release of fertilizers may produce toxicity and destroy ecological balance. As and when we speak about fertilizers, we know for the fact that when lot of fertilizers are being pushed onto the soil and they're continuously used by the farmers, this decreases the fertility of the soil. But it is not the same when it comes to nano fertilizers in comparison. So the soil fertility will not lose over a period of time in comparison to the conventional fertilizers. Effective duration of nutrient release. Nano fertilizers can extend effective duration of nutrient supplies into the soil used by plants at the time of delivery. The rest is converted into insoluble salts in the soil, leading to the infertility of the soil in the conventional fertilizers. Loss rate of fertilizer nutrients. It reduces loss rate of fertilizer nutrients into soil by leaching or leaking. High loss rate by leaching, rain off, and drift when it comes to the conventional fertilizers. So what is the importance of nano fertilizers? One, crop productivity improves. It is a good alternative to the conventional chemical fertilizers. Nano fertilizers also reduce crop cycle periods, boost crop yields as well. So if you look into the practice question, both the statements are right, which is why the answer to this would be both. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements are correct with respect to Joint Parliamentary Committee? It is a temporary organization formed to consider a specific issue for a predetermined amount of time. JPC recommendations have value and are binding upon the government. The number of members can vary. There is no fixed number. Which of the statements are correct with respect to the Joint Parliamentary Committee? The answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to the Joint Parliamentary Committee, which is why we have taken this practice question. When you look into the first statement, it is a temporary organization formed to consider a specific issue. This statement is right. So basically, whenever a joint parliamentary committee is set up, it is set up by the parliament for a specific purpose. It is set up for a special purpose, basically to look into a legislation or to look into a subject matter as well. And it has members from both the houses, which is why it is called as the joint parliamentary committee. So it can be from Rajya Sabha, it can be from Lok Sabha, and from both the ruling parties as well as from the opposition, and this is immediately dissolved after its terms and reference points are completed. So when we speak about the joint parliamentary committee, it is set up after one house of the parliament has passed a motion and the other has also agreed to it. Members of the JPC are decided by the parliament, and the number of members can vary, and there is no fixed number. So the third statement is right, the first statement is right, but the second statement is wrong. Yes, JPC recommendations have value, but they are not binding on the government. The government may listen to it, they may not listen to it, they can appoint another committee as well. So while the recommendations of the JPC have a persuasive value, they are not binding on the government. The government can choose to launch its own further investigation based on the JPC, and it need not be enforced. So the second statement is wrong. The first and third statement are right. So the answer to this would be C. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. The albedo of an object determines its visual brightness when viewed with reflected light. The albedo of Mercury is much greater than the albedo of the Earth. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is one only. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2008. The albedo of Mercury and the Earth is about 0.142 and about 0.367 respectively. Hence, statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is wrong. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is National Youth Parliament Festival. Let us try and understand what is this festival all about. This is basically an innovative program that is undertaken by the Government of India to equip youth to understand the parliamentary procedures, democratic process. When do you go about voting? From the year of 18. But when can you contest the elections in the Lok Sabha or in the Assembly? It is from the age of 25 years. So you can vote at the age of 18, but you're entitled to only participate in the process by contesting elections only from 25. So this basically means, so for all those youth in the age bracket of 18 to 25 who are allowed to vote but cannot contest in the elections, to hear their voice, this particular program is undertaken. The objective of the National Youth Parliament Festival is to hear the voice of the youth who will join various careers in coming years, including public services. The National Youth Program is based on the idea given by the Prime Minister in his Mann Ki Baat address on 31st of December 2017. Taking inspiration from this idea, the first edition of NYPF 2019 was organized with the theme Be the Voice of New India and find solutions and contribute to the policy, with participation of 88,000 youth in its physical mode. As part of the assignment, please put on the comment section what is the theme for the year 2023. So what is the objective of the National Youth Parliament Festival? Basically, this will provide a platform to all the youth to voice their thoughts, opinions and dreams for the country, and also publicize the various schemes and activities of the government to the youth, so that it becomes an interactive platform. So the youth would be able to put out their voice and concerns, and at the same time the welfare schemes and programs by the Government of India will also be given to the youth so that they are aware about it. So this will be an interactive platform where both the parties will discuss and they will get an idea about the democratic institutions and the procedures. And do note, this is organized by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports and can be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.